Hello, I'm Shel C, and I am from the StencilGirl creative team. I would like to share with you a quick art journal page and a little discussion about the difference between stencils and masks. This is a question I get asked a lot because it can get, if you, it can get a little confusing for people. So basically, here's how I explain it. Think of a stained glass window and think of the frame of the window and the interior panes of the window. The frame, the black part, including the lead between, is the stencil. The colored part would be the mask. So you've got the outer part and then the inner part. The masks are the inner part of the stencil. It's just a reverse of the stencil. That's kind of how I try to explain it, innie versus outie. So today I'm going to use several of my favorite designers' mask designs. I have some from Trish McKinney. I have some from Valerie Chodine. I have some from Tracy Bautista. And I think I even might have one that was designed by Mary Beth Shaw. I'm not sure. But they are all mask style stencils. And I am just playing in my journal today, making a really quick and easy page. The first thing I did was put a little bit of gesso on the page, and then I am using my stencil brush. This is a makeup brush. It's sold out in the world as a makeup brush, but it's great for stencils. It's great with acrylic paint. When I'm done with the brush, I just wash it. It's no big deal. In fact, I use the same brush for my whole process this time, just wiping it off on a baby wipe in between because I've picked some colors of DecoArt's chalky finish paint and a couple of their traditions acrylic paints to use on my page, and they're all kind of coordinating. Trying to think about a primordial forest, a deep, dark, intense forest that some of us might not be really comfortable going in, but that's what I was thinking about when I was making this page. So I'm using these organic stencils from Trish McKinney, and then Leafy stencil from Valerie Chodine. This one, it's a mask. They're masks. They're not stencils, but since they're cut out with a laser machine by StencilGirl products, we still call them stencils, right? Really, they're masks. I am layering the colors on through the different masks and around the different masks, and then also using a baby wipe to wipe off some as well through the masks. So I'm getting a real layered amount of color and pattern that just seems to me like the jungle, like deep in the forest with all this different foliage and things growing and what you might see there. So then I wanted to also use this border mask stencil because I really like this one. And it's just got these scallops with designs in it, and there's one on either side. I think this one's been around a long time, but it's really cool and I enjoy using it. So to get some more dappled sunlight coming through the canopy of the jungle and some more pattern and interest, I used that across the top where the light would be shining down. And then I'm going over with another layer of the same organic stencils, making more patterns, just using light, dark, alternating until I get a really patterned and really intense looking background. So I dried that off, and then I wanted to make a couple darker pieces, and sometimes I like to use these mask style stencils as a stamp. So I use some darker paint and I rolled the paint on with a brayer, and then I just simply turned the mask stencil over and pressed it onto the page. Really easy to do. It makes it kind of like a stamp. So that's fun. Then I decided to add some real jungly florals, big bright flowers into my foresty jungly page. And so I got out this Tracy Bautista mask This one comes with the stencil part as well. It's got the cutout of this, and then also the exterior portion, which would be the stencil. So you could use the stencil part and make a color of this shape, and then take this and go over the top to make another layer. But I just used the mask part and some of the color, the yellow color that was still on my palette, as well as I added in some cadmium red from the DecoArt Americana line. I also got out an actual stencil. That's the only one that was a stencil and not a mask. And that one is called Garden Swirl. And actually some parts of it are very mask-like. If you were to cut them out and, take them out of the frame, they would be masks. So I just used a few of the little floral shapes just to add some more different jungle flowers in. Then to add a focal image, I decided to do some collage. I am a collage artist, so I like to do collage. I like to glue paper to things. And so I had this stamped tissue paper that someone had sent me, a butterfly shape stamped in permanent ink on tissue paper. And when you collage tissue paper, the edges of it pretty much just disappear. But I wanted to make these butterfly wings into a fairy, because I think if I went into this primordial, jungly, deep place that no one ever goes out in nature, I might find fairies. Because I believe, don't you, right? So I cut out a magazine image of a little baby doll. It does look very realistic, but it is a doll. And then I just cut that out using some sharp scissors, and then I'm kind of using some water to trim down the excess tissue off of this stamped butterfly. And I put the baby in between the butterfly wings, and it looks like a little baby fairy that's flitting around, right? So I used some fluid matte medium to glue down this tissue paper and also the magazine page. You've got to be really careful with these very delicate papers. They want to tear. So use a fluffy brush and brush from the inside outward to make sure that you get all the little bubbles out. And then give it a little dry. The next thing I did was to add some detail work with pens. I used my Pentel Pocket Brush pen, which is India ink, in a flexible brush style pen. It's a lot like the water brushes that we use, but it's got ink inside of it. It's a little cartridge, and when it gets empty, you can take it out and put a new cartridge in. It's one of my favorite pens. I like to be able to make painterly looking marks because it has a brush, and I can go from very thin to very thick, and I just think it's a great detail and mark making tool. So I'm going around the different edges of the images with a little bit of illustration line, very quick brush strokes, not being overly fussy, not trying to hit the exact mark, but just making brushstroke style marks of illustration to make everything kind of balance. I really enjoy making illustration lines around images. I often will shade them. This time I didn't shade, I just used that little pen and I drew around things to make it all seem to be more cohesive, to go together, because I have stenciling, I have some stamped tissue paper, and I have a magazine image. So I want it to all kind of look the same when you look at it from a distance. Also, I want those focal images to stand out from the background. So this is why I do it. Also, it's just part of my style, I think. That's what people keep telling me. So then once I had my illustration lines done, then I decided to paint in some different colors on the wings. And I started with that same yellow that's in the background, and then also added a little bit of a darker yellow to it. And also there's a little bit of white there blended in. I'm blending in white as well. I want to make pastel, so I don't want it to be too dark. I also added a little bit of that color to the centers of some of the flowers. And then I got the red out again and mixed that with white to make a very pale pink, because the baby doll that I cut out is dressed in a pink outfit. Plus she has very pink skin. It's just, it needs to be pink. So I want some of the yellow, I want some of the pink, maybe a little bit of darker pink, mix some of the red back in, and just make her coordinate with the page, sort of. And then I'm also, there was a little spot where some ink came off on her face. And so I mixed a little bit of a skin tone and just added that around in areas to kind of take away the shine of the magazine print and make it more matte. Remember, I was using the chalky finish paints and the traditionist paints, which are both very matte type of paint, which is good for art journaling because that matte finish, when you put your pages together, you don't have to worry about them sticking together. So I did add a little bit of that paint over the magazine image just to make it matte like everything else. And then I took a acrylic paint pen by Posca paint pen, and it's a fine tip in white. And I added some more marks, little highlights here and there around the page, something I enjoy doing a lot. Again, not trying to be precise, not trying to draw exactly on any line. This is an art journal. It's for fun. It's for practice. It's not for fussing. It just is for doing something fun. So I did add the highlights with my white Posca pen. Also in a few of the flowers and things. I thought the baby needed some antenna, so I did draw those in. I also drew in a few stems. It's kind of weird to me if a plant isn't grounded because it wouldn't just be floating in the air. So I added a few stems, again using that little Pentel pocket brush. Also a little bit of paint, a little bit of highlights here and there. Just a finish. I'm just finishing. I needed to add a little bit more color to the baby's face, some pink cheeks, and so I used Neocolor 2 crayons for that, and a little bit of color to her hair to bring it back to life, make the values and tones match. Then I also needed a bit of sparkle, so I'm using this Spectra Noir glitter pen. I did notice on these that they are alcohol based, and if you're too crazy about putting it on really hard, you could smear that India ink. It will smear with the alcohol. Here's where I'm drawing the little antenna. If it's a fairy, it has antenna, right? If it's a butterfly, it has antenna. Then the last thing I did was to add a few words from the Small Talk stickers from Tim Holtz Ranger. And one of them says, travel the world over to find the beautiful. And the other says, leave a little sparkle wherever you go. So I thought those were both perfect sayings for this little quick art journal page. I hope you have enjoyed it. Don't forget to give a thumbs up, leave a comment or question below, subscribe if you haven't already, and turn on notification bells. That's it for me. Thanks. Bye-bye.